Good afternoon. This is Mrs. Denise Parker, Managing Director of Internships and Careers at National College Resources Foundation. And today we have a very special guest on our Elevate Your Game series on Internships and Careers Spotlight. We're going to feature one of our partners, T-Mobile. They joined us for our virtual internship and career recruitment series. And now we're just going to have a private conversation with one of their shining stars. And I would love to introduce her. Come on, Miss Lauryn Satterwhite. Go ahead and just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are, what's your role at T-Mobile, and then let's get into our conversation.
Cool. Hi, I'm Lauryn Satterwhite. I'm a program manager here at T-Mobile, and I work with our career and diversity recruiting team. A little bit about what I do. I work with specifically HBCUs and Hispanic serving institutions, help recruit some of their kids to our internship pipeline and into our consumer markets as well.
Excellent. And I had such a wonderful time meeting you earlier on when we developed this partnership, and one of the reasons why you've been brought on to share this working relationship and collaboration with National College Resources Foundation and T-Mobile is to show that diversity matters, and how we go about it and how we hear these stories and how we can relate to people matters. One of the things that brought to our attention from your lovely colleague, Miss Lacey Craig, was that you were a shining star. And the reason why she said you were a shining star is because you started as an intern. What was your transition like? First of all, what college did you go to, and how was your transition from high school to college? And then how did you get into an internship and then eventually lead up into your role now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had the great opportunity of receiving a full ride scholarship, basketball scholarship to Northwestern University. And I chose Northwestern University. A lot of people think, oh, academics, basketball, but I really chose it for the culture that was there. I loved kind of like my little cohort, my class that I came in with. They're best friends. And when I say the class, I mean the whole kind of student athlete community, even some of the regular students. I love the culture. Everybody was very genuine. And so I had the opportunity to go to Northwestern University, and I loved it. And it was the best thing ever. I learned a lot of very good things just about kind of the world, career. I learned a lot about myself. But one thing that I still struggled with going to that school was finding internship opportunities and like what's next after being a student athlete. So it was in my last year of college. I needed an internship to graduate Northwestern. And it was the first time I thought to myself, like, oh my gosh, I can't just play basketball for an internship. Like, I need to get a job. So I didn't know what to do. So I started actually in my inner circle, and I reached out to my teammates and I said, hey, what do your parents do? And I went to each teammate and asked what their parents did. And after I kind of did my little bit of research within my inner circle, one of my teammates, her mom did something in the creative space, and I loved it. I think it had to do with like commercials or advertisements. Loved it. And I said, can I get in contact with her? I just want to kind of pick her brain about what she does. So I got in contact with her, and I basically asked her, what do I want in an internship? And she was like, I can't answer that for you. You got to figure that on your own. But, here's what to look for. This is what's out there. I'm going to put you in contact with some more people and you can learn more. So then I got another network of a whole bunch of professionals that I could talk to. I asked them questions like, what does your company offer? What's out there? What am I looking for? I love storytelling. How do I get into storytelling? And I got the name that came up was T-Mobile. And I was like, T-Mobile. And it took me aback because I never thought about T-Mobile. It was just kind of like, T-Mobile is kind of a random company. It's telecommunications. And I did some more research on T-Mobile, and I learned about the culture, and I was like, this is really cool. I said they support, you know, internal promoting. They're supporting awesome benefits, tuition assistance, and they're doing a lot in the community. And that's kind of who I am. I like to help people wherever I can. So I was like, this kind of aligns with what I want to do. So I put all my eggs in one basket, and I let go and let God. And I applied for an internship role. And when I applied for the role, I applied for the human resources role, which was completely opposite of what I wanted to actually do, which was like commercials and all the creative stuff. And I told myself, I said, you know what, like, I don't know much about HR, but I know what I'm capable of. I said, but how do I stand out, you know, in this? They're getting 37,000 applicants. I said, how do I stand out? Let me apply to something where I don't know much about, but I know what I'm capable of and I can shine in it. So I said, how can I bring creativity to HR? And they loved my resume, I suppose. I got the interview. And I always told myself, if I can get in the room in an interview, I'll be able to win them over. And luckily I did. And I ended up at T-Mobile for the internship program. And it's been awesome. And yeah, it's been great. It's kind of my journey, kind of getting
shining. You just been shining this entire time, you know, just trying to show that you're more than an athlete. You're more than a person of color. You're more than, you know, your gender identification. You have so much more than those boxes that we check when we're hiring. It's the individual. It's the story that the layers are that are within. That's one of the things that we do at NCRF is try to figure out who the person is behind their grades, behind their environment, their demographic. What we found that most people, they don't have people listening, leaning in, responding to, you know, they only want to hear the hard stories, but they don't get to know the person itself that come out of these hard stories. And then they figure that they throw a little money at them or give them a little opportunity. And it's like, okay, you're all good. You're healed. You're saved. You're better now. But what I like about you're just kind of like the general sense of your story is that you already saw yourself as doing what was first mandatory, required of you by your college, your university. You have to. But then you saw something in yourself that nobody else probably would have saw, because they kept saying, no, you got to figure it out. I can't give you that. I don't know what kind of internship you need. What was those transitions like when you were coming up in your head? Like, what was going on in your mind? Like, from that perspective, can you talk to your younger self a little bit? Like, now that you're older and you reflect back, like, what would you tell your younger self when you were going through that transition?
I would tell myself kind of to first slow down, because at the end of the day, you can't solve all the world's problems in one day. So I would tell myself to slow down and do research and really internalize what I wanted. So when I was telling these professionals, oh, I want storytelling, they were like, okay, storytelling is very broad. What do you want? So I kind of had to internalize and say, what do I like? What do I want? What am I passionate about? And I found, again, that's where I said, like at Northwestern, I found who I was. I found my voice. I was really passionate about advocating for people who look like me. And so I said, how can I do that in storytelling? How can I do that? And I thought, do I do it through acting? Do I get into the acting space and try to do it there and showcase? Or do I do it through commercials and try to bring the diversity within commercials? Or do I do it from the back end? Do I do it from HR and figure out a way, again, to be creative, but also advocate for people like me? So again, I just took my time, internalized what I really wanted, and found that like my passion lies within, again, giving people opportunities who look like me, who aren't always given an opportunity. And the way to do it, again, is through HR. So super thankful for that as well.
When you found out HR was going to be your calling, so to speak, first of all, it stands for human resources, meaning you're relating to people, you're understanding that you need to provide not just information, but services, and create a culture that's protecting the environment of not just for the company's sake, but also for the employees coming in to service, what the brand is expected to do through their mission, through their vision. How did you identify that HR, in the sense, was going to really mask who you are? Because like you said, acting, maybe it was, journalism, maybe it was just getting out there and promoting us. How did you know that the intricacies of HR had everything that you needed? Was your major HR? What was your major?
Yeah, so my major was journalism. So reporting and writing is my thing. So doing research is my thing. But I didn't know the intricacies, that's the word, in human resources. But I took a leap of faith, and I knew that HR had to do with the overall company and like rules and laws and recruiting and different things like that. But I didn't know it until I got in it. And so I think, especially advice I give like young kids now is like, don't be afraid to do something that you don't know much about, because at the end of the day, you're going to learn if you like it. And I told myself too, I'm like, okay, I say I want to do commercials or storytelling and act, whatever. But I'm not going to jump into it right away, because what if I don't like it? Let's try something different first and rule it out. And that's what I kind of did with HR. I jumped into it because yes, I can kind of advocate for people in HR, but at the same time, I'm not an HR major. I only know kind of surface level until I got into it. And I realized it's a huge department that offers so many opportunities to share your voice, connect with people, and just, again, demonstrate that culture that the organization represents.
Excellent. And what did you find yourself doing as some of your first, what did you do when you first started your internship? It's a totally new position, trying to understand the world of HR, and then how that transitioned into your new role that you're currently doing today. What was it that you learned first off? Like, what were some of your key things?
So when I got into my internship, I was right off the bat tasked with creating a social media strategy for our T-Mobile for Business line. And basically, we wanted to create this strategy to bring in more candidates to the T-Mobile for Business pipelines. And basically, that's what they told me. They're just like, yeah, create a social media strategy. And like, that was it. And I was like, how do I create a social media strategy, right? And so what I learned off the bat was, okay, T-Mobile's not going to micromanage you. They're not going to say you do this, 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 and this, and this is how you do it. No, they want you to expand your creativity and figure it out yourself, kind of, with guidance from them. So it's kind of like, hey, this is what I developed. This is what I developed. What do you think of it? And so that's what I learned off the bat. And so I was able to create use my creative skills to create a whole bunch of graphics and taglines and different social media things that hiring managers were able to post on their LinkedIn. So I was working across like various departments. I was working with like the social team. I was working with my team. I was working with our employer brand management team. And I was working across them all, trying to get things approved. And I was able to, again, create this whole social media strategy that ended up bringing in, I want to say like 200 plus candidates into our pipelines, which is pretty cool. And I think it gave me an opportunity to showcase kind of who I am and my talents. So a lot of the graphics that I made were based on like how I thought or what I would want to see from a company. And I was kind of able to demonstrate that through that. And I, again, was able to kind of show up and show out. And then on top of that, T-Mobile offers a awesome opportunity where you're able to present your project that you worked on in the internship to like the executive. So the executive, like the EVP of human resources, her and her team, I was able to present to them my project and how I helped the company. And I looked at it as like, it's kind of like a game, you know. When I'm a student athlete, you got to prepare and do all that good stuff. But I was like, I got to show up. Like, this could be the decision if I get a full-time role. And I always told myself nothing will be harder than playing basketball in front of a whole bunch of people with like the game on the line. So I said, this is nothing. I can do it. I walked in there with a lot of confidence, and I kind of showcased myself, and I present it as if I was already part of the team. I was already at the company. They already hired me full time. Like, this was just another regular meeting. That's how I presented it. And that's how my supervisor, Ari, that's how he prepared me. And I think I wowed him because like after that,
you wowed them.
I know I wowed him. You're right. I know I wowed him. I walked out the meeting and I was like, that was my best performance on or off the court. Like, I was just in my bag. So I think I wowed him.
I love that. I just love that. You people give athletes a bad rap sometimes because you guys are so focused on just your game and just perfecting the game. They tend to forget that you have some of the best skills out there. You learn how to work on teams, you know how to follow directions, you know how to execute, you know how to perform under high pressure. So those attributes of who you are as a person and developing skill set also can contribute into a 9-to-5 business, corporate America, owning your own business kind of, setup or, environment where people just tend to overlook athletes. Dr. Price, who's the founder of the National College Resources Foundation, she always says student athletes are some of the best people to work with because of their work ethic. How do you find to break those stereotypes for yourself? How are you when you're talking to other athletes who are young, who feel like they're not getting picked and chosen because they didn't have time to do an internship because they were practicing or away at games? What are some of the things that you kind of want to say to those kind of student populations that are striving to see themselves doing some amazing things like you're doing?
Yeah, I would say, always lean on that you're a student athlete. So I think it's one of the coolest things you can possibly do and be, because people talk about student athletes, as you mentioned, about the student part or the athlete part all the time. They don't talk about the student part, and they don't talk about how much student athletes succeed in the classroom while doing their sport. It doesn't get talked about enough. And I always say channel your inner student athlete, because I lean on those skills every single day. As you mentioned, teamwork, collaboration, just communication, being able to be personable and talk to people. That's hard for a lot of people, but just being a student athlete and constantly having to be around your teammates and meet new teammates and being able to implement, new plays into your system or execute a game plan. I always tell student athletes to lean on that, because when you get to the corporate world and to your career, it's the same thing. It's just the stakes. I want to say the stakes aren't even as high, because when there's a championship on the line, that's different than when
it's do or die. It's now or never.
Yeah. So
this is it. No repeats.
Exactly. But just lean on your strengths, because at the end of the day, student athletes, I believe, are just built very different. We're built to win and to be successful and want to be successful. So lean on it and use it to your advantage. It's so funny. I came into the office during my internship, and I was the only intern in my office. And I told them I was a student athlete, and it was like, oh my gosh, you're a student athlete? And a lot of people really look at that as something that's super positive and something that's like, wow, like I wish I was a student athlete, or like I could never do that. So always lean on it and don't be ashamed of it, because when you get to the corporate world, everyone's gonna be your biggest fan. And in the back of my mind, I always say, if it came down to it and the company was on the line and there needed to be a one-on-one game, I'm winning for the company. I put the team on my back. You know what I'm saying? Like I at the end of the day, I feel like I can I can beat everybody in one-on-one basketball, and that gives me confidence. So I just lean on your student athlete character. It's okay too. I do it all the time.
I love that. Just taking that time to actually acknowledge that it made you who you are today, and also the work it took you to get to the level where you can get accepted into school underneath those kind of, that brand, and then getting to an organization that is so reputable like T-Mobile, who has a global brand, and now you're part of that team and representing that team to the fullest, and you're bleeding the pink and black and white and whatever colors. Yeah. The magenta, I should say. Maybe it's magenta.
Magenta.
You're right, it's magenta. I think that it also leans to like inspire young people that you don't have to just think inside one box of who you identify as. This generation is multi-dimensional. They fit in so many diverse classifications, and they don't accept the old way as their way. They have a different way of communicating, how they do with social media, how they do with, interacting user interface with brands such as, T-Mobile's brand. What is it about this new generation of coming up interns and early career college graduates that you're seeing? Because you're part of that age bracket, from intern to now a recruiter, as your early career. What is it about this age bracket so special?
I would say, I think just like being part of like Generation Z, we're starting to like advocate for ourselves and like stand up for ourselves. And I think that's really big, because you look at like past generations, it's like, instead of, maybe standing up for your salary, you might just kind of take what you can get because you got your foot in the door. But I think like my generation is starting to stand up and advocate for themselves. At least that's what I've learned too, just working in corporate, that, no one's going to boast about your achievements. Only you are. And the thing is, and it's important too, because you want people to know what you're doing for the company. You want people to know your worth, right? And no one's going to advocate for you like you can advocate for yourself. And so I feel like my generation is stepping up and kind of breaking those barriers of not staying quiet, but striving for what they want and doing what it takes to get to what they want, which I think is so cool to see. And you can see it like trickle in, and it's so funny because I'm the youngest on my team right now, and it's so funny when I say certain things, right? Because I still try to make it professional yet friendly, yet again kind of my slang and how I speak. Yeah. It's so funny because I talked to like my supervisor, my manager, and he's like, well, it's like a double meaning. Like, what does that mean? And I'm having to teach him the new slang that's going on, in the world. And he's like, it's good to have that though, in that youth, because again, I was in the office as an intern by myself, and I was the youngest one there. And I felt like I brought the youth to a lot of these different people, and they enjoyed it. And I think, again, like, my generation is doing that. We're bringing the youth, we're bringing the joy, and we're showcasing that, like, you don't have to live to work, but work to live, if that makes sense. So I think my generation is making big leaps.
You guys are taking more time to take those pauses and to express the concerns that are going on within your personal selves and also within the world itself. It's kind of like the 60s are mashed up with the 21st century. It's like there's this push and pull of between the social justice and the environment, what that looks like, and then also mental health and what that is, the current issue that's happening in today people, just generation. So my understanding of who this generation is has a lot to do with how you guys really express what matters the most to you. And you guys are choosing over salary environment. Mm-hmm. One thing I want to ask that kind of leans into why you chose T-Mobile and why T-Mobile chose you. It's kind of like you guys were doing an exchange, like you guys were dating for a little bit with that internship, and all of a sudden, no, this is the one. I found the one. I found the place I found the place I want to be. And I think that's what I hear from you is that it was that courtship. What about you know, the generation today who's choosing over money? They're choosing that environment, the culture of the company. Why is T-Mobile such a good place to work for? And then also my final question in leaning into that is a lot of young people, again, they're never heard. A lot of people elders are talking to them, talking at them, but you have so much to contribute to a company based on your knowledge, your slang that your colleagues don't know about. What is it about this culture that's accepting you and hearing your voice and asking you the questions so they can better understand your generation, how to go about it, how to provide products and services that support this generation or whatever, or the future of the company? So my two-part question is, one, who you are and what makes you, in the sense of, all that you bring to the company. And then also, why did you choose this company for the cultures, the cultural environment?
Yeah. So, I mean, me as a person, I'm super passionate about helping people and being able to advocate for people who don't have the same resources that I may have. So T-Mobile off the bat, it's a genuine environment. So they have a whole thing called #BU, and they really do practice what they preach. I'm able to show up to work like wearing a t-shirt, the T-Mobile t-shirt, and it's okay. You're not being judged. They want you to be able to express yourself, because I think T-Mobile has learned that, again, the youth obviously is the future, and they're wanting that new generation, that new future coming in and innovating at T-Mobile. I think it's important. I think it puts you ahead, because at the end of the day, my generation, we're buying the products, we're participating in the events, and so the target is us at the end of the day. And I think T-Mobile is trying to embrace that and bring that in. And so part of the reason I chose T-Mobile is the same reason I chose Northwestern University. Culture. Like, you want to go to a place where you feel safe, where you feel supported, where you feel like people want to see you win. And that's what I got at T-Mobile. Right off the bat, like, they told me, like it was more so kind of doing research and talking and asking the right questions, where it was just kind of like, look, T-Mobile is here to help you progress in your career. And maybe you can't progress with us, but we'll make sure you get somewhere where you'll be appreciated, where you fit in. And I think that's the best thing they could do. Something they provided me with was trust. They gave me big projects and said, go do them how you see fit, right? And I think that's so special, because, again, at my generation, we like to express ourselves, and that might be in the most extra way, but they're okay with it. And so, again, T-Mobile was there to support it. They might say, hey, maybe tweak this a little bit, or maybe add this, but they're not going to change my main idea or my main concept. They're going to support it, which I think was, again, another check to what I was looking for in a company. And then on top of that, everything they're doing outside of just telecommunications, like, they want to support HBCUs, they want to support foundations, where it's kind of like, I know there's hurricanes that happen. T-Mobile is always like the first to offer internet services and things like that to help, and I love it. They're trying to help. We have like a program going on right now called Project 10 Million, and they're like trying to help schools and donate money and all these things. And I'm just like, that's a culture I want to be part of. Help. Like I want to help people. And so that's the reason I chose T-Mobile. And I'm lucky that T-Mobile kind of saw that in me, that I want to help and advocate. So we kind of chose each other. So
I love that. Where do you see yourself in the future? As far as, do you want to eventually start your own brand or create something on your own, or do you want to continue to work in this space and see how far you can go in the company? You don't have to talk like matter of fact. It could just be like pie in the sky. What's your biggest dream that you want to attain to, and help and allow this company to help you build that dream in that retrospect?
That's a good question. Right now, I am just kind of living, feeling the vibes. I like what I'm doing right now. I really enjoy, again, helping like HBCU students. I really enjoy it, but maybe like 10 years down the road, I do want to get back into like writing. I love to tell stories. So maybe writing like children's books, or like, doing like short films, things like that. Just my journalism background. I know I'm going to want to get into that when, I don't know. But for right now, like I love T-Mobile. I love what I'm doing. I can see myself being here for a while. If they'll have me, I can see myself being here for a while. But yeah, maybe down the road when, getting close to like retirement, I'll bring back the notebook and pen and start writing down some stuff.
But
Yeah.
definitely jot down your journey on the way while you're getting to those, hitting those milestones and just checking off those personal boxes and goals. I think it's very important for us as young people, or people, I'm a little older than you, but young people, to actually look back and say, you know what? And you open up that journal and you're like, wow, look at my thinking and my thoughts, and look how far I came, or look, I did actually achieve that. And it's all positive. It's just showing that you have retrospect, and you archived your retrospect. It's very important. I love this conversation, Lauryn. You're super special, and you're one to recognize within your organization. I think they picked not just a superstar, but you already knew that you were a winner. And I don't want to put more sugar than it needs to be on there, because I don't want to make our teeth ache, but you're really sweet. You have this wonderful demeanor, and they're really blessed and lucky to have you, to be a part of a culture that is so inclusive. And that's one of the things that companies need to reflect on: who's doing it well as far as company culture, the DEI, how they do those matter of facts, as opposed to just checking those boxes. How do they incorporate? It was your name that came up again when we were having conversations about how we want to go about this partnership. And because we are so much a hands-on, let's get the people around it, we look for people who have the right heart first. Then we also look for the people who have the right representation. So it's heart, and then it's representation. You can't just have representation and not the heart, and you can't just have the heart without the representation. It seems like, from all the things that we're doing with T-Mobile, they have both. They have the heart and the representation, and they're super glad and happy to work with us. And I thank you, Lauryn. Is there any final words that you want to leave with our audience?
All I'll say is, first, I appreciate you, and I appreciate this interview. It has been so fun. I love doing interviews, just because like I as a student athlete, you always do like talk about your game or your sport, but I never done like an interview where I'm talking about my career and like who I am, as a person outside of just basketball. So I appreciate you setting up this interview. Some advice I would give is, I love to say it, like #own your moment. Whenever you're given an opportunity, as like in your youth, whenever you get an opportunity, just own your moment, show up, show out, and always rely on your strengths, because your strengths are your strengths for a reason. And so whenever you get into that meeting or that game or that event, just own your moment, showcase who you are through your strengths. And that's all I got. Yeah, it's been great.
Love it. Well, thank you for joining us for this Elevate Your Game. And to our virtual audience on our social platforms, you can follow us at NCR Foundation. You watch this on YouTube. All of Elevate Your Game comes on every Thursday at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. Check your time zone for your special listing. Thank you again. Until next time, peace.